Come on, Annie. Let's go to the movies.
This is the Cinereelists, episode 658. My name is Kyle.
And my name is James.
And we're here to talk movies, movie lists, and movie obsession for the next hour or so. Once again, James, nice to see you and only you.
I know, it seems to be a recent trend, but it's fine.
Zach will be back next week.
We miss Zach for sure.
Bring Zach back. Bring Zach back. Bring Zach back. Bring Zach back. Bring Zach.
We need to bring Zach back for sure.
Yeah. You also find a clip that's something like, we haven't seen Kyle in a while.
There's nobody ever misses a Kyle. So
No.
there's no soundbite for that.
I remember a while ago I made a list, and it was like my top 10 movies that featured a Zach or a James as a main character. And like it was obviously finding James was very easy. Finding enough Zach characters was a challenge.
Mm-hmm.
I tried making one for my own personal name. I'm like, God, there's no Kyles in movies whatsoever.
Are there any Carl? Are there any of those?
Yes, there's more Carls. I do get Kyle Reese though from the Terminator, so that's pretty cool.
Sure.
But Carl's not here right now. No. Carl has been checked out for about 20 years.
Yep. For sure. Welcome to the podcast, Kyle. Yeah. I just got a text message to let me know that my new TV is scheduled for delivery on Friday. Black Friday.
Tell me more about this TV. Scheduled to your home or scheduled to a store?
My home.
Okay. Is this TV so big it has to be delivered?
TV's so big I couldn't go pick it up if I wanted to. I mean, I'd have to rent like a U-Haul or something.
How big is this TV?
It's 100 inches.
100. Okay. I was expecting 90. I think you'd be going triple digits.
No, I was looking at a 98. And to be honest, the only difference between the two was I wanted to get to triple digits.
Well, okay. So you just, was the price the same between 98 and 100?
I think technically the 98 was slightly better. Prices were similar in the same range. And technically the 98 was slightly better.
Okay. I'm now questioning your desire for triple digits if you're sacrificing better chip processor.
I mean, it's like nothing, basically. Okay. They're both LED with like local dimming zones and the same resolution, the same hertz and blah, 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 blah. They both have like Dolby Vision, HDR10 plus, they have like the exact same features. The 98 is slightly lighter.
Okay.
I mean, 2 inches,
Yeah.
Of course it's going to be lighter. And it was an LG. The one I bought is a Hisense, which I've never had before.
Okay, yeah.
But the reviews are great.
Okay.
So, and I've watched like a couple of YouTube videos on it of people who are like TV channels. All they do is talk about TVs. Right. And they're like, it's not the best TV ever, but for the price, it's pretty insane. So I've wanted this TV for 6 months. I waited till Black Friday, hoping it would drop to $15.99, and it didn't. But it did drop a little bit.
Okay.
So I pulled the trigger.
And where's the TV going exactly?
Oh, in my living room.
Okay.
/ theater.
Yeah, like will it be an entire wall or?
No, but like right now, my TV, the wall that it's on, it takes up probably 60% of the wall. It's a 75-inch TV.
Okay.
So I'm guessing the 100-inch TV will take up like 75 to 80% of the wall.
A good chunk, yeah.
Like I might have like 1.5 feet on either side that's not TV.
And what are you doing for audio?
Soundbar. For now. I have a really nice Bose speaker set.
Okay.
That's just sitting in my closet waiting for me to buy a receiver for.
Is that
so that's the next big purchase.
Is that surround sound?
They're surround sound speakers. But like I originally had a DVD player that was Bose. But like I don't play DVDs. I need like a 4K player. So when the DVD player had an issue with its power brick, I looked up how much the power brick cost, and since it's well out of production, the power brick was like a couple $100. And I was like, I'm not paying a couple $100 for a power brick to power a DVD player.
Yeah.
That feeds the speakers. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
It just didn't make sense. So, so I kept the speakers because those are the speakers still hold value.
Right.
Whereas the DVD player is garbage. So, donated the DVD player. Go ahead.
Without getting too technical, because I'm sure people love this. Can you use the TV and the speakers with the ARC return channel?
I wish I knew what that meant.
Okay. So very quickly, you can essentially use your TV as the receiver.
Oh, really?
So yeah, so like how I have mine set up is I use my my Xbox as like the return channel. So then the audio goes through that, and then it goes to the speakers. So like
okay.
It's a little complicated, but it reduces the amount of speaker like cabling you need.
Sure.
And then you don't need like the optical cable from the back of the TV to go to the whatever the receiver, the soundbar.
The receiver.
Is.
Sure.
Yep.
Well, my current soundbar just connects Bluetooth.
Oh, okay. So it's a wireless connection.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But I wonder if there's like a difference in sound quality, Bluetooth versus optical. I haven't really worried about it because it's just a soundbar. You know what I mean? Who cares?
But I care.
But if I'm gonna put like 5 speakers and buy a receiver,
then you want to.
I want to know that if the optical's better, I'll do optical.
I think your best is going to be if you can figure out how to set it up the ARC return channel, which is HDMI.
Okay.
And then optical comes after that. Like I don't know if optical will support Dolby Atmos, whereas the return channel would support it. So you might want to look into that. But
sure.
That's a down the road. Get the TV first, enjoy that, and then once you figure out the receiver, then you can figure out all that stuff.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, final question.
Okay.
Do you mount this TV or is it on a table?
I'm gonna mount it.
You were gonna mount it. Okay, brave.
But it came with free installation.
Oh, so then Best Buy or whoever delivers it, they're gonna do the mounting.
Costco. I did Costco.
Oh man, Costco TVs, the warranty on those is insane. I love Costco TVs.
They gave me 3 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, because they give you like the 1 year manufacturer, and then they put their own 2 year on top of that.
Yep.
Yeah, I bought a Costco TV one time, and like it started having these flicker issues, and it was outside the manufacturing warranty, but it was on the Costco warranty. So like I called Costco, and then Costco 3-way called the manufacturer, like me on the line, like with the Costco rep on there also, and was like, "Hey, I have a customer here, and they have this TV issue, and you guys need to come fix it." And I was like, "This is amazing." And then like like a technician came out, and he like essentially he fixed everything but the actual like light panel. Like he changed the motherboard, the receiver. It was a brand new TV.
Sure.
Minus the actual like screen itself. And I was like, wow, this is the best. This is like the best service I've ever received. This is how un-American of all this.
Yeah. The TV that I got, if you go up to the 115-inch, it's nearly $8,000, which is insanity to me. What is 15 inches? Like, it's not that much of a difference.
Right. I don't know why it's so much more expensive.
But that's where like the 100 inches used to be like 3 or 4 years ago. So I'm wondering 3 or 4 years from now, if the 115s will be down to, under 2K, basically.
I mean, I feel like every 5 years, you're just going to get like 10% bigger, 10% bigger.
I'm just going to keep going till there's no wall left.
You just want, I want wall to wall. I mean, at that point, why aren't you just buying a screen and a projector?
Because they're not as good as these, LED or QLED or, you know what I mean? Like
you can buy 4K projectors.
But the brightness is nowhere near what you can get from essentially a wall of lights shining back at you.
I see what you're saying.
You know what I mean? Like a projector is shining light on a wall, and then depending on how expensive a screen you get, it bounces back to you.
Right. You need that reflective screen to get it. Yeah.
Right. So if you want to get something that even comes close to like a really big TV, you essentially have to buy like a screen that's a couple $1,000s,
right,
from a brightness perspective.
Yeah, I see people. Anyway. I see people project onto their wall, just like their plaster, their drywall. I was like, why? Like, it doesn't matter that you got some like 4K projector. You're putting onto a drywall. Might as well get like a standard F1.
I mean, me and my buddies used to do that. We used to like set up a projector and, play Rock Band, go edge to edge on the wall.
Right, but that was
who cared about the texture on the wall? And
it was standard def though, anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
No, that was HD at that point.
Okay.
360. But still, it's like, who cares at that point? It's not the. But when I'm at home watching a 4K, like I want it to be, for how much I have to spend, as good as it can get. You know what I mean?
I completely agree. Yeah.
Within reason. And since I hadn't bought a new TV since 2019, I felt like I waited long enough.
Yeah.
Okay, this way I can give the old one, the 75-inch, which is still a really good Samsung TV. I can give that to my son. He can benefit from my upgrade.
Oh, I got my dad's hand-me-down 75-inch TV.
I know, right? I wish.
Yeah, I wish too.
The first TV I bought was a 32-inch tube TV that took like 3 people to get it up into my TV cabinet.
Oh,
it was so heavy.
One of those like 160-pound, like the Trinitron. Yeah.
It was an RCA.
Okay.
Flat screen tube TV. And it cost me almost as much as what I just paid for that 100-inch one. And the 100-inch one probably weighs less.
Oh, yeah. So
TV did.
When I got my first apartment with my now wife, we got from my parents at the same time sold their house.
Sure.
And they gave me this is like 2008 or something like that. They gave me their 32-inch Sony Trinitron, which is like it's a tube TV, but it had the flat screen, right?
Sure.
That thing weighed 160 pounds. Right. And I was the second floor. There's no elevator, second floor of an apartment. And like, I remember getting it up there. Me and Megan got up there. We put it on the console and the console just started to sag. So I had to reinforce it. Right.
Sure.
And eventually a couple years later, we got like a 720p plasma TV. And I knew I couldn't sell this Trinitron, so I put it up on like Facebook for free. I was like, free U-Haul, and like these 2 guys showed up, and I think they almost killed themselves carrying down the steps. But I was like, yep, there it is. Good luck.
Sure.
And they put it in the back of like a Buick or something like that. I was like, whatever, just take it out of here. I'm not helping you carry that thing again. It's so heavy.
When I went to get rid of my flat screen tube TV, nobody would take it. I couldn't even donate it to like a charity. They're like,
right.
We don't want it. Nowadays, that TV is worth money.
Oh, like, so my current, because like Facebook is no longer my friends. Facebook is just all suggested pages.
Right.
Like my entire Facebook feed now is people who make like retro 90s and 80s basements. And they're like, I found this sweet Magnavox 27-inch TV and like for their Nintendo. And I was like, okay, you guys go for it. I wish I held on to all my cheap TVs because they're all worth money now.
Yeah. Time marches on, Kyle.
So
you can't stop it.
Moral of the story is save everything because you don't know what'll be worth someday.
Right.
And then when you're 90, your grandson can clean out your attic of all the crap that you saved.
Right. That like
not that I've any experience doing this whatsoever. So.
Sure. 1 or 2 things are worth anything and all the rest is still junk.
Oh yeah. When you have like stacks of Boys Life from the 50s, no one wants those. Maybe they want one for like a museum piece. They don't need every issue from 1950 through 68.
No, I mean, I struggle with that. Like sometimes when I'm going through things that like are like special to me, I have to stop and think like someday my son's going to be burdened with this. You know what I mean? Like,
right. Yeah.
Like he won't understand why I kept this. So why am I keeping it? You know what I mean? Like at what point do I just get rid of it? Because there's no reason that he should have to throw it out someday down the line, way down the line. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, you're not that old yet, James. So you got some time before I really make those decisions.
Sure. Yeah. I guess. All right. What are we doing here? Oh, movies, right?
Yeah.
We're talking about movies. Specifically, today we're going to talk about Blitz from 2024. It's a new release movie on Apple Plus. And we're also going to run down our top 10 favorite films of Saoirse Ronan.
Or for some of us, the only 10 movies they've seen with Saoirse Ronan in them, whether she's starring or cameoing.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. We'll get into it when we get there. Before we jump into all that, though, we need to remind everybody there's a video version of this podcast on YouTube. Go check it out there. You could support us on Patreon, patreon.com/Cinereelists. Support us there, get extra after show audio after almost every episode, and help out the podcast, get the extra shows as well as other Cinereelist swag right there at the Patreon. Go check it out. You could leave us an Apple podcast review. That's free, and we'd appreciate it. 5 stars only. Or send us a listener email to heyguys@cinereelist.com, REEL with an S on the end. Instructions on how to do any of that stuff is in the description of this episode, so check it out. And with that, you ready to get into Blitz?
Let's get blitzed.
Let's get blitzed. We're gonna get blitzed right after this clip.
Look after yourself, my boy, and don't forget, be brave and stand up to bullies. What do we always say about them?
All mouth and no trousers.
Pardon? I didn't hear what you said. Speak up, please.
All mouth and no trousers.
Correct. Come here. Yeah, this is for emergencies.
Oh, thank you, Grandad.
That was Blitz, a 2024 fictionalized war drama produced and directed by Steve McQueen, starring Saoirse Ronan, Elliot Heffernan, Harris Dickinson, Benjamin Clementine, Kathy Burke, Paul Weller, and Stephen Graham, amongst others. The official IMDb plot synopsis for Blitz is: the stories of a group of Londoners during the German bombing campaign of the British capital during World War II. I feel like that's more a premise than a plot summary, but...
Yeah, because there is a plot to this movie. It's not just a pastiche, though it does feel pastiche at times.
Sure. Right. But it's not like unconnected stories that happen in a, vacuum.
No, this isn't like Traffic.
Right.
For the Blitzkrieg.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think it's important to note that the main plot has to do with Saoirse Ronan's character, and her son, who is a biracial boy whose father is not in the picture for reasons that we learn throughout the movie. And she decides to there's a program that's essentially sending kids out of the city into the country because the city's being bombed nightly. This is the Blitzkrieg, from the Germans during World War II. Cities being bombed nightly, so she puts them on a train and gives them to an aid group that was like, oh yeah, we'll take them out of the country, we'll keep them safe. We'll take them out of the city to the country, keep them safe, and then when the war's over, he'll come back. And this kid is pretty angry that his mom abandoned him, as he feels, and he escapes this train journey and tries to make his way back to his mother. In what seems like only a couple days. I thought this movie took place over weeks, but I think it only took place. I think it was taking place more or less in not real time, but like the night we saw was the first night, and the second night was the second night. There weren't huge jumps in time.
While I was watching it, I thought the same thing. I was like, oh, thought I was following along, as well as anybody would. And then all of a sudden they're like, oh, he got off the train yesterday. And I was like, what?
Yeah,
like a week had passed.
Exactly. We're like 2/3 of the movie. And
right.
I was like, oh, that was yesterday? Okay.
I was shocked by that because
all right, good. I'm glad you felt the same as I did. I'm like, oh, this is a much more compressed time than I thought.
Yeah, I don't think not that they had to, but I don't think they did a real great job of like representing how much time was passing.
No.
Either that or I just made assumptions because they weren't filling in the gaps, so my brain did. I don't know.
Well, I mean, but this movie also fills you in with flashbacks as well as like side stories. So I think that's why the movie does feel a little bit like it takes place over a longer period of time. Because like we'll get action that's in the moment, and then we'll get an extended flashback about, like how Saoirse Ronan met the father, or, other things that kind of happen in their past that are feeding this story.
Sure. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. So while the kid is trying to get back to his mother, Saoirse Ronan's character Rita is, I don't know, involved in the British resistance of the German bombing. The war in general. She's working in a factory.
Oh yeah. She's not like a spy. She's
right.
She's working in a factory making bombs. Yeah.
Just a normal lady who is doing her part, I would say.
Yep.
To help the war effort. Meanwhile, another kind of side plot to the story is the fact that the London tubes, the underground, the subway, as most places would call it, is not being opened up for people to take shelter during these bombing raids that the Germans were conducting on London. And so the population is pretty upset over the fact that like there's this perfect bomb shelter downstairs and you guys won't let us go down there while everything's going to crap. So there's a little bit of like I wouldn't say it's a political story, but that's what's going on in the society in the shortened window that we get from the movie.
Right.
And then there's also like this strange, weird attraction. I wouldn't even call it a love story, but like the thing with the firemen.
Oh yeah, I totally forgot about that.
That comes like
doesn't
2/3
go anywhere,
and it's like it shows up like 2/3 into the movie.
Yes,
kind of out of nowhere.
Yeah,
I feel like maybe there's more there that hit the cutting room floor.
So, if I had one big complaint about this movie, is the fact that it did feel like there were too many plots or too many ideas. And I don't think it did any of them especially well. And I think it's because of lack of focus.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, you're getting into it. So let's get into what we thought about the movie in general. Why don't I go first?
How about you go first this time?
You already showed your hand. And and you always go first. So I'm taking it back, Kyle.
All right. Well, James, I would love to hear your opinion first.
I agree. That's my opinion.
Okay.
I don't have huge sweeping issues with this movie. And also I feel like there were some moments where it just didn't feel quite as tight as I know Steve McQueen movies can be.
Agree.
I felt like the plotting was there. And the acting was definitely there. I didn't have any issues with any of the acting. There's like definitely a bigger scale than what I'm used to seeing McQueen be able to work with. Like the Small Axe series that I saw 2 or 3 films out of, they're all small films. Widows, for how great it is kind of a small film, and
Shame.
Small. Yeah. I mean, they're all kind of like very character driven movies, whereas this one is definitely set amongst a much bigger event. And so you get bombings and exploding buildings and burning cities and all kinds of just action that we haven't seen McQueen really go into. And all of that perfectly well done, but it just felt like we never stuck with one character long enough.
Yeah.
Or they didn't go deep enough for it to feel like anybody had enough to do on screen. Like even the Rita character played by Saoirse Ronan, like she's clearly the center of this. I'd say she gets 65% of the screen time, with her son getting her son's journey, maybe the other 40 to 35% or so. And I just never felt like I connected with her as a mother. You know what I mean? Like I understood on screen that I'm supposed to, and that she was in distress because she was having to give up her son. Like, that was depicted, and it was depicted from an acting perspective well, but I never felt any emotion or like had any fear that maybe she'll never see her kid again. Or concern. And maybe that's just because it's a movie like based on history, even if it is fictionalized, that like they wouldn't just, spoiler alert, they wouldn't just kill her son, end of movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it just didn't feel like that kind of movie, so I never gave it that opportunity. Maybe I would have been more on the edge of my seat had I known like that was even a possibility. I just never believed that was a possibility. So there's another movie that I saw that was about the bombing, Germany bombing the UK.
Okay.
Where the bulk of the movie is about a specific bombing of a school, an elementary school. And that movie had me. You know what I mean? Like it was brutal, but I believed bad things could happen in that movie. Whereas in this one, it never gave me that vibe. And so I didn't fully buy into what was happening. On top of that, whenever you cut to the kid, with the exception of kind of the bombed out ballroom scene, I never got the feeling of like true danger. You know what I mean? Like Come and See, or that other movie where it's like war related with kids having to journey from one place to another.
Yep.
Go ahead.
So continue, because
sure,
I'll build off this. Yeah.
Like those movies, I believed the stakes more. Whereas this one, I felt like we were headed towards an inevitable happy ending.
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't necessarily have to get into the ending, and I'm not saying the ending was 100% happy, but I believed that those two would be back together again someday. And that's probably a spoiler. Whatever. It doesn't matter. Anybody that watches this knows from 2 minutes in, they're not killing that kid.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, yeah. Whenever they cut to the kid, it felt like a kid's adventure movie to me. Mostly. Occasionally not, but mostly a kid's adventure movie. And didn't bother me. It just felt like by the time I was done with it, I was like, all right, moving on.
Yeah.
This was nothing super special. And that kind of bummed me out for a nanosecond, because I know what Steve McQueen can do. Like Widows lives rent free in my brain. That movie's awesome.
I like Widows a lot. Yeah.
The long take in this, when the kid's running through the city, is awesome. There's a couple shots in here that are awesome.
The long take in the ballroom scene.
Yep.
Is like when they start in the ballroom, they go into the kitchen. Like it gives you a sense of the scale. It gives you a sense of all the people that are at this ballroom.
Yeah.
I thought that was great. That was really effective.
Absolutely. The Steve McQueen bells and whistles are good in this.
Yeah.
It's just the general vibe and the pace of the story and the believability. It just didn't get me there for some reason. What did you think about it?
Yeah, so I agree with you. I kind of wanted something a little bit more harrowing.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't need Come and See. Like that's pretty harrowing. But when I heard about this movie and as I was watching it, I kept thinking about a better version of this movie.
Mm-hmm.
That's called Empire of the Sun.
Yes.
Right?
Empire of the Sun has real tangible danger to it. Even though you know in that movie the kid's going to be fine too.
You do, but like I remember seeing that as a kid and like really being affected by that movie. Like, oh God, like what if you were separated from your family in the middle of a war and now you are on your own trying to survive? And like Empire of the Sun, maybe feel for the kid, maybe because I was a kid also when I saw it, I could be part of it. It's been a while, but like I was I was with that kid for that journey. And I was concerned for that kid. In this movie, with the exception of a couple scenes and probably like like when he's running through the city during the bombing and also a flooding scene, those are kind of the two ones where I felt the real danger there. I didn't feel danger the rest of the time. Like even when he's with the gang, we can put it that way. Like it was icky, but I was like, okay, well, he's going to run away at some point. Like these people aren't good at keeping tabs on a kid. Like he'll just run when he gets the opportunity.
Right. Plus,
what does he do?
I didn't believe that those people would have done anything to him.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like in Come and See and some of those other examples, like the bad people are perpetrating things on him. They were gross people, you know, in Blitz, but they weren't like gross to him.
Right. It was more like, oh, you're small and we need you to crawl into spaces and yeah. So that's what was missing from me was I didn't feel the stakes of this movie. There was moments where I felt, oh, this is kind of exciting, but at no point was I afraid, wait, how will this movie end? Where will this kid end up? And I think part of that is because we do cut around to other people. And I think if the movie had stayed with the kid, it would have been a much more effective movie because then you don't know what's going on everywhere else. Right. But in this case, like we're with the kid for a while, then we cut to Saoirse Ronan. And sometimes she's not even like worried about the kid. There's points where she doesn't even know what's going on. She's just living her life, like singing for the BBC, you know, reminiscing about her son's father, talking to her fireman crush.
Right.
And those moments I thought took away. And I can understand. I've never seen a movie to my knowledge that's about the Blitz. I've seen lots of World War II movies. I've seen movies that reference the Blitz or maybe shown a scene of it, but I've never seen one that's dedicated to like the bombing of London. And Steve McQueen being an English director, it totally makes sense. He's like, oh, hey, I want to make this movie that's, you know, not made very often. So I could see why, you know, if you make a story about a kid in the country, you're not going to get a lot of Blitz stories going on. I just don't know if this was the right story to tell the bigger story of the Blitz. I'm not a screenwriter. I don't know how to tell that story. I don't know if this is the way to do it, though.
Yeah.
I think the other thing we didn't mention is there is a bit of a story of racial undertones throughout this movie.
For sure.
Right. Yeah. With the kid being biracial.
Right. The kid being biracial, and you're seeing like a lot of immigrants throughout because they tend to be less wealthy and
right. Yes.
They're the ones that are being kept out of the tubes and stuff like that. That they don't have quite the cover that the rich in London have.
Yep.
Yeah. And like he doesn't see himself as a black kid. You know, he's biracial.
Right.
But he considers himself white, and then he meets a soldier who's black who's like, you can be both. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's cool. It's cool to be black too.
It's cool to be black. Yeah.
And so, you know, he doesn't have a father figure. Well, he kind of has a father figure.
He has the grandfather, which, by the way, I thought the grandfather was awesome. Like he just hung out, played piano. He seemed super chill. Like
the grandfather was awesome, but like really underused. I was just like, why is this guy here? Like they're not having him do anything. And then at the end, you know why, but
yeah, but he's also like super accepting that like, you know, his daughter has a biracial kid in 1940 with a right. father who's gone like this. Yeah. The dad seemed super chill about everything.
For sure.
I wish every person was that chill in 1940 as that guy right there. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead. It's the strange movie where I'm not mad at it. I don't think it's done anything wrong.
No.
It's clear that it told the story that it wanted to tell. I guess I'm just not that interested in it. Or at least I'm not that interested in the way it told it. It like for a guy who typically in most of his movies, McQueen can make me feel for the characters first, and the setting is just kind of like just a table setting. It felt the opposite here. It felt like the situation was leaned on, and I didn't find the situation all that interesting. Now, in the last year, I watched a lot of World War II movies. Like I went on a weird jag where like Netflix, I watched like one World War II related movie, and then like at the end of it, it's like, here, watch this one. And I just worked all day and just let it go. I probably watched 10 World War II related movies this year. And most of them were worse than this, but there were like 2 that you never heard of that I consider better than this. And so from people I had never seen a movie from before, like the actors and the directors. So it's probably a mixture of like just really high expectations for Steve McQueen combined with a lot of these types of stories filling my brain and just like having that comparison to the best of the other ones that I've seen relatively recently. Empire of the Sun is like the perfect comparison though. You nailed it on the head with that one. Like the kind of danger that you get with the kid in that movie, even as an adult, because I'm like you, I saw it when I was younger.
Right.
Wasn't that kid's age, but you know, it was probably 13 or 14 when I saw it. And then watching it again as an adult, I've probably seen it 3 or 4 times across my lifetime. I feel for that kid every time. You know what I mean? I go through the whole range because it's really good. I can't imagine anybody doing that with this movie. I don't know. Maybe if you were like 12 or 11 and watched this, maybe you could put yourself in that kid's shoes, and all of those situations would be scary. Also, I wouldn't be jumping off a train at his age.
So
maybe that's the difference, is like he just kind of seemed stupidly brave.
Right, because they say he jumped off a train an hour into the ride. So it wasn't like he was that far away from the city. Like, I mean, those trains probably went like 30 miles per hour. I mean, I don't know how fast. It wasn't some epic journey that he took to get back to the city. Like, he jumped off the train, and then the next scene, he's like on a bus, and he says, "Hey, how do I get home?" And the lady's like, "Oh yeah, go back 3 stops this way, take a left, take a right, go 4 more stops, then you're home." Like, oh, so he's like the next neighborhood over.
Right.
Like, he's not even that far away from his home. So, and like, you know, I was thinking of like American Tail, right? American Tail is another movie where a kid gets lost, and yeah, he's actually in the neighborhood the whole time. Like, he's not that far away, but like everything's so foreign to him that he doesn't realize how close he is to his family. In this movie, I didn't feel that scale either. It wasn't like he was like lost in London. Like, he kind of knew where to go. Everyone seemed super helpful to him. It just took a while for him to get there.
Right. Yeah. I agree. Anything else we need to say about Blitz?
Yeah, I think I thought of the movie that I wanted as we were talking.
Okay.
Or the movie I would have made if I was Steve McQueen. And I don't quite know the history, but I think he could have made the same movie. It had similar themes. If it was just about, like, just focus on Saoirse Ronan, the father and her son. You could keep the same backstory with the son and his father. That would be totally fine. But just make it about, right, poor people who can't find shelter during the Blitz.
Right.
Right. And like every night could just be them huddled in these shelters as like things are crumbling, them wondering, is this the night that the shelter collapses? You can still have the flooding scene. You can still have the running through the city scene. You could even have like the undertones of racism if you want, you know, people to be like, oh wait, we don't want that boy down here, whatever. Like,
yeah, or the class separation that they injected into other things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that way, I think it would have been a much more personal story as you're focused on this like single mother and her son just trying to survive a terrible situation.
Yeah. You know what would have make it even better? Make everybody blind.
No. No. Seen that movie. It's not better.
All right. You're no fun.
No, Blindness is no fun. That's just a downer of a movie.
I love that movie.
I know you do. It's on your top 100. That's why I watch
it. Okay. Anything else we need to say about Blitz?
Nothing
Honestly,
else.
I didn't know anything about it. I hadn't even seen the poster. I thought maybe it was about football for some reason.
Oh, like NFL Blitz.
Yeah. Was that a video game, NFL Blitz?
NFL Blitz was like the arcade answer to Madden. Like Madden's, the serious version. NFL Blitz is like cartoony and you could do crazy sacks and things. Yeah.
It was like the NBA Jam of football.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. I never played the NFL version. I never played NFL Blitz, but I played the crap out of NBA Jam.
Oh yeah. So NFL Blitz was too easy because it was too easy to cheat.
How did you cheat? Just
like you could go off sides, you could tackle the quarterback. Like,
gotcha.
It was a little too loose with the rules, so it made it not fun because you could just cheat your way through it. Where NBA Jam, I still felt like you're playing basketball. You could also just jump half the court if you powered up the right way.
Right, but you could never throw the ball out of bounds or anything like that. They changed the rules. They didn't change the rules. They just made it impossible for the ball to go out of bounds.
Well, yes, but that'd be boring if you if you're constantly having timeouts and the ball's out of bounds.
And there were no fouls, right? No fouls in NBA Jam.
There was goaltending. That was the only foul that I could think of.
Right.
You couldn't goaltend, but yeah, like you could push people over and strip the ball, things like that.
All right.
Yep.
I recently watched a documentary on what's the name of the company that made NBA Jam? Midway?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. There's a great documentary on Midway and how they kind of became the company that digitized people into arcade games. They made Mortal Kombat and NBA Jam and a lot of the Narc. You remember Narc?
Oh yeah, Narc was cool. Yeah.
Narc was the first time any game had done that.
Yeah.
Taking digital photos and then put them into the computer. It was interesting. I enjoyed it. It's free on YouTube. I think it's called Insert Coin.
Okay.
Anyway.
Yeah, I mean,
it's it's a professional documentary, not like a YouTuber.
Yeah, right. No, it's a real movie. I hear you're saying. So
yeah.
No, I mean, I definitely, I was on the tail end of the arcade generation. So maybe not the heyday, but sort of as it was dwindling, I was getting into arcades.
Sure. I was like an arcade rat.
Yeah. I mean, because you were there in the late 80s. You were there in the prime of the arcade.
Right. So mid 80s to late 80s. By 1987, I was 10 years old.
Yes.
So that was where I was.
Yeah.
I was in the arcade. Then by 91-ish, the arcades felt like they were dying. And then Street Fighter 2 came out and they exploded again. And then by the mid 90s, they were gone again.
I mean, by the mid 90s, we had Nintendo 64. I mean, you had Super Nintendo, which is already pretty great compared to arcade. Then you got Nintendo 64. I was in middle school when Nintendo 64 came out. And I think at that point, I just stopped going to arcades.
Sure.
Because all my friends, we just go to my friend's house and they'll play that instead.
Yeah.
So.
Absolutely. All right. Let's letterbox Blitz, which is not about football.
No.
What are you going to give it out of 5 stars?
I think I'm going to give it a 3.5. And I think it gets a 0.5-star bump because of Steve McQueen. I think if this movie lacks some of the Steve McQueen shots in essence, it would be a 3-star.
Yeah, I mean, if you're not overloaded with World War II movies, it's been a while since you've seen one, and you like his filmmaking visually,
yes,
I think you'll get something out of this. If you're looking for his deep characterization, deep, character studies, I don't think it's that movie. No, for sure. It's not as vapid as I don't know. What's the Transformers guy? Michael Bay.
Pearl Harbor. It's better than Pearl Harbor.
I like Pearl Harbor. I would watch Pearl Harbor any day over that movie.
Do I need to rewatch Pearl Harbor? Because I saw in college 20, over 20 years ago, and I hated it.
I'm not saying you will magically like it.
Okay.
But I think there are elements that are pretty good.
Am I misremembering it that polio wheelchair bound FDR stands up in that movie in like a moment of triumph? Like he beats polio for a moment just to rise to his feet?
I don't remember that. It's not a high point in my brain, but
okay,
it's entirely possible that's in the movie.
I think that was the point where I was like, oh, I hate this.
Sure.
So,
yeah.
Okay. But maybe I'm misremembering. I could be wrong.
Right. Did I give this a number yet?
No, you have not. No, I gave it 3.5.
3.5 for me.
Okay.
As well.
Yep.
That was Blitz. Let's jump into our top 10 films of Saoirse Ronan. I made a list of Saoirse Ronan films, assuming you did as well.
I did, yes.
I ranked it in order of preference and also taking into account how much Saoirse Ronan is starring in the movie. If that makes sense.
I did kind of the same. I ranked it by how much I like the movie, but then also as I was trying to work within that confines, I was taking in both how much she was in it, but also how much I like her performance in the movie. Not just her screen time, but her screen presence.
All right. Fair enough. I've seen 16 of her movies. So there's 6 that are not on here that I've seen.
I've seen 10. And 2 of them I saw this week.
Nice.
So, yeah, not quite there with her, but I can say overall, movies that she's starring in or even supporting in, I tend to like.
Okay. Cool.
How about I go first?
Do it.
All right. So, again, I have exactly 10. So some of these are a little bit of reach. So my number 10 is 2014's Muppets Most Wanted.
All right.
This
the worst Muppet movie ever made.
Yeah, yes, it is not good. This is the sequel to the Muppet reboot movie with Jason Segel, which I really liked that one. This one stars Ricky Gervais, amongst other people, who I just don't care for. And it's not so much like his jokes or his quote-unquote non-PC-ness. That's fine. I just don't like Ricky Gervais. I just don't like his personality. I don't like his delivery. I don't like his attitude. It just doesn't work for me whatsoever. So this movie puts him front and center with Muppets, and I love Muppets. Muppets are great. And just like sarcastic Ricky Gervais doing his, offhandedness throughout this entire movie did not work for me. But Saoirse Ronan does do ballet in it for about 45 seconds. So, she is in this movie.
That was one of the ones that did not make my list. Not only because I don't like that movie, for similar reasons that you described. Like, I like Ricky Gervais.
Okay.
In general. I mean, I don't like some of his politics or like, some of his causticness, but I think Extras is great, and certainly his original version of The Office is great. I used to listen to his podcast, and definitely what's the name of that travel show? He had a travel show.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
An Idiot Abroad.
Yeah.
An Idiot Abroad is one of my favorite reality TV travel shows. Anyway, so I don't have a problem with Ricky Gervais. I just don't know why there's a Muppet movie with so much Ricky Gervais in it. Like, who cares?
Exactly. Yeah.
I don't watch Muppet movies for Ricky Gervais of all people. It didn't make any sense to me.
Like, Jason Segel made sense because he's kind of like a life-size Muppet anyway, just with his facial expressions and his,
he's a goofball.
Exactly. So it made sense to put him in a Muppet movie. Ricky Gervais, I'm like, what barrel are we scraping here?
What I don't like about the new Muppet movies, and I like the first one more than, Most Wanted for sure, is like, why are we leaning so hard on the celebrities too? Like, these are supposed to be Muppet movies, not movies with people that happen to have Muppets in them. You know what I mean? Like, make them Muppet movies, and if you're going to have people in them, make them small little cameos like the old movies used to do, not main characters to the plot. Nobody cares about that crap. Anyway, my number 10 is Violet and Daisy, which is a Saoirse Ronan movie that I watched recently for this list. and it made the cut just barely. This is 2011, described as a crime comedy drama, although I wasn't really laughing a whole lot during this movie. It stars Saoirse Ronan, Alexis Bledel, and James Gandolfini. It was fun to see James Gandolfini in something again that I hadn't seen. I'm guessing this was like 2011. I think Sopranos were over by then. So I think this is like when he was trying to figure out what's next.
He had a small, I mean, I know he was in movies before Sopranos, but he definitely was then doing more movies post Sopranos. Yeah, like he did Zero Dark 30. He did some rom-com movie. I can't remember what it's called, romance movie.
He was in a Brad Pitt, Julia Roberts movie called like The Matador or something like that. Do you remember this?
Okay.
Yeah. Where he was like a negotiator or something like that. I don't know. He was in movies, but he certainly didn't have the same success that he had with Sopranos.
No.
I mean, it was an issue, right? Like James Gandolfini, once you're in a show like The Sopranos with that kind of prestige, that kind of legacy, it's going to take you like a decade to shake that off.
Oh,
just from like an audience perspective, like an audience or like the people that pay you to be in movies, like you just have to grind in these kind of smaller roles until they accept that like you can play other things. And this is in that world, that time where he's like playing these supporting roles because that's all he can get. And so in this movie, he's definitely playing a supporting role to Saoirse Ronan and Alexis Bledel, who play these young team of assassins. And they're like just kind of like sociopathic girls who fire guns and they're hitmen, hit women, whatever. And they are assigned to kill James Gandolfini. And when they do, he reacts totally differently to it than like all their other people.
Yeah.
Because he kind of wants to die. And so they start feeling bad about what they're doing. And that's kind of the bulk of the movie, is these three characters in a small apartment kind of going back and forth over whether they're going to actually do it. And like, he wants them to do it. And they're like, we don't like it that you want us to do it. You know what I mean? That makes us feel bad about this. So, like I said, they describe it as a comedy. I think it's trying to be a dark comedy. It wasn't that funny, but it was fun to see Saoirse Ronan and James Gandolfini on the screen together. Like, these are two people that I just never put together in my brain until I saw this movie. And then I was like, it's so weird to see Tony Soprano. Same reason why he had problems out of The Sopranos still happens in my brain, is I'm just like, why is Tony Soprano not acting like Tony Soprano?
Yeah, like I thought he was from Jersey. Where's the accent?
Right. And he's like very gentle in this movie, which is very not the type compared to Tony Soprano. So I enjoyed it, but it's still, I give it 2.5 on Letterboxd. Like, not a great movie, I would say. That being said, and we'll get into it, Saoirse Ronan might have the best percentage movie to movie of anybody I've seen like 15 movies of.
Yeah, right. I was looking at this list again. Of the 10 I've seen, like I like most of these movies.
Yeah, I mean we'll get to it for sure. What was your number 10?
Yeah, I'm sure we're gonna have a lot of a crossover.
Yep.
My number 9 is another small role for her. Again, probably a cameo. This is 2021's The French Dispatch. It's a Wes Anderson movie. And this is about an American magazine based in France that's putting out their last issue. And there's a collection of stories that are going in this issue. And like these stories are being put to screen for us to see. So oftentimes these stories are being pitched to the editor, but then we're seeing the actual story unfold in front of us. And as a movie, I enjoyed this, but I think I enjoyed the parts more than the whole. Because you have some like really great parts, like Jeffrey Wright's performance is one of my favorite Jeffrey Wright performances that I've ever seen from him, and he's playing a James Baldwin like character, a writer, who's giving a talk. I like that part a lot. Benicio del Toro is in this movie as like a prison and artist. I liked the whole moment with Owen Wilson on the bicycle, kind of like riding, doing a travel log, even though it's very Wes Anderson-y and like it's pop-up bookness. I thought it's perfect for like the 5 minutes you have it. But other parts of this movie feels like just Wes Anderson just staring at his own navel and like, how far into myself can I go? And I was off put by some of that, especially a lot of the Timothée Chalamet like French Revolution stuff. I was like, okay, let's move on from this. This is the least interesting part of your movie, and you're just trying to see how Wes Anderson-y you could be. But in this movie, Saoirse Ronan actually talks, unlike the first movie that I had her in my number 10. I believe I watched a clip, and I don't remember the context, but in the clip I saw, she is sort of looking over a boy who's been tied up in a closet. She's playing like a French showgirl, you know, and at one point she sings a song for this boy. And I didn't realize until I saw a couple movies this past week that Saoirse Ronan had such a beautiful voice. I know she was a singer, and I don't know if she has other vocal performances, but man, she has a great singing voice, even in the short lullaby she sings in this movie.
Nice. It didn't make my list, but mostly just because I couldn't remember her in it.
Oh yeah, I'd have YouTube it and watch it was like a 1.5-minute long clip that she's in.
Sure.
So she's definitely not a main part of this movie.
Yeah, I mean, French Dispatch is a movie that it's like, what do you call it? I think you said it. It's not a montage, but it's a collection of stories. It's a collection of stories that have a rapper.
Anthology.
It's an anthology.
Yeah.
It's an anthology film. So there's like a couple of them I remember real well, and then all the rest is gone.
You're right. Yep. I feel the same way. So.
All right, my number 9 is The Way Back from 2010, which is kind of a road movie.
Okay.
Another one set during, I think World War II. Yeah, it's World War II. So Ed Harris is a guy who gets convicted by the Soviet government and sent to a prison camp. He escapes the prison camp and then goes on this really long walk, like across the snowy mountains into the desert, and he's basically just trying to get out of Russia, basically escape. And over the course of him taking this long journey by foot, he meets other people who are trying to escape for their own various reasons. One of them being a character played by Saoirse Ronan, who's a young girl whose parents were killed by the Soviets, and she was sent to like a work camp and was not treated well there and escaped.
Okay.
And so it's just like a collection of people who, for one reason or another, are trying to escape Soviet Union that Ed Harris's character comes across over the course. And it's a good like survival movie slash on the run slash road movie. And it's one that's not talked about a whole bunch. I enjoyed it. I think it's a good little movie made by the same guy who made Witness and Dead Poet Society and The Truman Show. So it's it's not kind of like, it doesn't sit amongst that list of movies, but I would say it's like one step below those. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if you were making a list of Peter Weir movies, this would be like 7 or 8 because he has so many bangers. You know what I mean? In 1 to 5 type of thing. And has a good group of actors that you will know and enjoy. And The Way Back, a movie I like. Don't really remember specifically Saoirse Ronan in it. Like I don't remember it as a Saoirse Ronan movie.
Yep.
But she's one of the ensemble that I enjoyed. My number 8 or 9.
Nice. Yeah, I've seen The Way Back, but this movie that has popped up on multiple lists before.
Sure.
Maybe not like the greatest movie ever, but people seem to talk about it.
Yeah.
So
it gets out there.
All right, my number 8 is The Blitz, or just Blitz that we talked about already this week.
Okay. Nice. My number 8 is Ammonite from 2020, which is a romance drama starring Kate Winslet and Saoirse Ronan. And in this movie, two women form a friendship that might be a little more than a friendship, but it's set in the 1840s in the UK, and it's kind of like not encouraged for women to be in a romance. And so it's a little bit of like a Lady on Fire type situation, I would say. And I think Portrait of a Lady on Fire came out in a similar time frame as well, and that movie is better than this one.
Yeah.
And so this one kind of got buried a little bit. But you get a movie with Kate Winslet and Saoirse Ronan as like the main two characters, and you know, it's going to be pretty good. I enjoyed it. Also, like Kate Winslet is like an archaeologist in the movie, and so there's like not weird 1840s archaeology, but there's like some like archaeologist politics mixed into it. She's like the understudy originally, the Saoirse Ronan character. And she like kind of like idolizes the Kate Winslet character for being a female in archaeology, because that's like not a thing in the 1840s for like women to be scientists, basically. Yeah, it's a good one. And if you like period dramas with a little bit of romance thrown in, check it out. Ammonite.
Well, speaking of period dramas, my number 7 is 2018's Mary, Queen of Scots.
Okay.
Yeah, this is a costume period drama. It takes place in the middle of the 16th century. This is when Queen Elizabeth I is about to take power as ruler of England. But then Mary Stuart, who is the widow of the King of France, is returning to the British Isles, and she actually has the rightful claim to the throne. So it's a bit of a bit of palace intrigue, as you have two people claiming to be the rightful ruler. Obviously, with history, we know which one of those two became the ruler, because we have Queen Elizabeth II. But if you like a kind of a period drama, costume drama, if you've got two, I think, really good performances, both from Saoirse Ronan and Margot Robbie, it's definitely worth checking out. So it's definitely a talking piece, but not a lot of action in it, but definitely a very well-made movie.
Nice. This did not make my list because I haven't seen it. It's like pretty much this and Loving Vincent were like the only two that I wish I had seen before we made this list. But I just didn't quite have enough time to get to them this week. But those two are still, someday I want to see those two for sure. All right, we are on number 7, The Lovely Bones from 2009. This is a Peter Jackson movie about what is Lovely Bones about? It's about like a kid getting abducted.
It's okay. I've never seen the movie nor read the book, but my understanding is it's the story of a girl who was abducted and killed.
Right.
And but she, like, her spirit is telling the story.
And her spirit leads the father down the path to finding the killer.
Okay, sure. That I don't know. I know it's not a ghost story, but it's the story of something happening from the victim.
Right.
Right.
The other thing that is a part of this is I'm pretty sure that like her and a friend get abducted and the friend survives it.
Okay.
I might have this completely wrong.
Yeah.
I haven't seen Lovely Bones since 2009 for sure.
Sure.
I have good memories of it, but like not specific memories of it. But I'm pretty sure 2 girls get abducted. One goes back home. One doesn't. The other one that didn't is presumed dead.
Okay.
And then her spirit starts giving the father clues to find the killer. And then he finds the killer and then figures out that he did this not to find his daughter, but because like the killer killed others. And so that like gives everybody the opportunity to properly grieve.
Yeah.
Basically. I would say it's a sad movie that probably not many people champion just because it's not an uplifting movie. It's about a killer who gets away with it until he doesn't, basically. And it's a lot about like parental anguish. It's kind of more Mark Wahlberg's movie than it is, or not Mark. Yeah, Mark Wahlberg.
Oh, he stars in this?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
I think that's another strike against it too for a lot of people. It's like it's hard to imagine Mark Wahlberg like in this serious movie.
Like there was a 10-year period. It started with Boogie Nights, where like Mark Wahlberg was trying to be like a serious actor.
He was trying to be in prestige films, yeah.
And I think it kind of ended with this movie. Like it started with Boogie Nights, ended with this movie. He's still acting, obviously, but he's no longer doing prestige stuff. He's a lot of stuff he's doing is like straight to DVD or comedies or.
Yeah, that's true. Every now and then you get like a not Patriot Games, but the running movie.
The Patriot? No.
You know what I'm talking about, right?
I know what you're talking about.
Boston Marathon movie.
Yeah, Boston Marathon. And I guess was he also in Deepwater Horizon?
Yeah, but Deepwater Horizon's like an action movie.
Okay.
Whereas the one about the Boston Marathon, I think, is like an artistic movie.
Yeah, what's that movie called? It's not Patriot Games.
It's not, but it's something like that.
And it's not The Patriot.
You're right.
But it has the word Patriot in it, doesn't it?
It's one click away. I'm sure I can find
this.
Yeah,
let's please. I must know.
Fairly quick. He made 3 movies with the guy who directed that.
Okay.
He made Deepwater Horizon, the one we are talking about, based around the marathon,
the Boston Marathon. Yeah.
And then he played one where he was a soldier who was like stuck behind enemy lines and had to shoot his way out.
Is that Shooter?
No, okay. But yeah, lately he's doing like Spencer Confidential. Remember we talked about that movie?
I was not on the podcast for that one. I
okay.
remember you guys talking about that one. Yeah,
you got lucky. And Uncharted. Peter Berg was the guy he made several movies with. Okay. Patriots Day.
Oh, Patriots Day. That's what it is. Okay, we were close. We knew it was Patriots something.
Yes. Yeah, Deepwater. They don't even mention the other one he made with Peter Berg, but he made 3 with Peter Berg, kind of back to back to back. And Lone Survivor. That's the name of the movie.
Oh, that's okay. I've never seen Lone Survivor. Is that worth seeing?
I mean, if you like, Iraq, Afghanistan era, war movies, survival movies, it's not the worst of them. It's not the best of them either. You know what I mean? Like, what's the bomb movie that won the Academy Award?
Oh, Hurt Locker.
Hurt Locker.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's better, I guess is what I'm saying.
This is a bit of a tangent. I think Zach and I actually mentioned this when it was just he and I a couple of weeks ago. I did rewatch Hurt Locker and Zero Dark 30.
Okay.
On the same night. I had like a Catherine Bigelow binge going on.
All right.
And I don't know if I can think of a better like tactical military scene that I've seen put on screen since the ending of Zero Dark 30. Like just how that's shot, how that's presented. It feels like you're watching like, oh, this is obviously footage from the actual raid that they just are showing to us. Like it feels like you're watching like a YouTube stream, not in a gross way, but like in it felt like you're watching the stream that like Obama and their cabinet were watching in the ready room.
Sure. What happened to Catherine Bigelow? Like she was on such a run, and then
I think
nothing.
She got put in movie jail after Detroit.
Because that didn't do it never was going to do the kind of numbers that
I know that
those two did.
I think, yeah.
And I thought Detroit was good. I haven't
seen Detroit.
It's not a like barn burner that people are flocking to because it's a hard topic, but that's a well-directed, well-told movie, I would say. Yeah, Detroit.
I'm not sure.
She's done nothing since Detroit, 2017.
Which is too bad.
I mean, before that, she made K-19 The Widowmaker, which is not a good movie. Have you ever seen Near Dark?
No, I want to see Near Dark and Strange Days.
You would love Near Dark. Strange Days is maybe a victim of its time.
Okay.
I haven't seen Strange Days in a while, but that feels like a very 90s movie. But Near Dark is like a classic 80s horror vampire movie.
Okay.
You'll watch Near Dark and you'll be like, this is Terminator, but with vampires.
All right. I'm down for that.
Which at the time she was dating James Cameron. So
right, yeah.
Or maybe even married to him at the time.
I think she was married to Cameron.
Yeah, she might have been
Cameron
married
left her for Linda Hamilton.
Right. But
did she make Blue Steel with
yes.
Jamie Lee Curtis? Is that worth that's another movie. I'm intrigued by that movie too.
I don't think I've ever seen Blue Steel.
Okay.
But I would.
I'd watch it.
I'm down.
All right. What's your number? Are you on number 7? Am I number 6?
No,
Where are we?
I'm wrapping up Lovely Bones.
Okay, you're up. There we go.
Check it out, especially if you want to see like what Peter Jackson can do with like a very little budget and not like weird maniacal puppets. You know what I mean? Like he's making a serious adult movie.
Yeah, not like that other Kate Winslet movie he made before.
Right.
What was the movie called? Not Fierce Creatures.
Heavenly Creatures. That's movie's good too, and it's low budget.
Okay.
No, what I was talking about is like his New Zealand horror movies with the puppets.
Oh, I've seen those.
Bad Taste, and I forget what the other one is, but
Meet the Feebles.
Yeah.
Okay,
I've never seen either of those.
No, I don't know where I pulled that out from.
Oh, you should see Meet the Feebles.
Is it gross?
It's gross and disturbing.
I don't know if I want to see. I don't know if I want to see that. To be completely honest,
it's a parody of the Muppets.
Yeah,
it's like what if the Muppets were like gross and disturbing?
I don't know if I want that to be
in like the lowest budget kind of way too.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw Avenue Q. Avenue Q is probably the best, as gross as I want my Muppets to be.
The only reason anybody should watch Meet the Feebles, even more than Bad Taste, because Bad Taste is like almost unwatchable. There's almost no plot to Bad Taste, whereas at least Meet the Feebles, there's a plot. You should watch Meet the Feebles if you're a big Lord of the Rings fan.
Really?
Because it will inform the depiction of the orcs and like some of the kind of horror tinged elements of Lord of the Rings. You'll be like, there is a direct connection, oddly, between Meet the Feebles and Bad Taste, and why things that were presented practically in Lord of the Rings were so effective at the time. Mm-hmm. Like that, it makes sense. Before, like the fact that Peter Jackson got Lord of the Rings is kind of insane because he was kind of unproven on a big scale.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think it's because he took what he did with practical effects and puppets and makeup and miniatures and all that kind of stuff in those nano budget movies that he made in New Zealand and like applied them to big budget movies. Like the fact that those 3 movies cost $300 million to make combined is insane when you consider what's in those movies.
Yes. I mean, right. And like the technology they innovated in those movies.
Right. Like the same movies today would have been 200 million plus each easily.
I mean, that franchise could have been like a B if it was made today. Like those 3 movies combined.
Right. From a production budget standpoint.
Exactly.
Anyway, go ahead.
We're
going to be here all night if we don't get moving.
My number 6. We'll go a little faster now. My number 6 is another Wes Anderson movie. This is probably where a lot of people considering Wes Anderson to have peaked with his style. And this is 2014's The Grand Budapest Hotel. A movie I've not seen in a while. I've only seen once. And I'm seeing here, it's only 100 minutes long. Like, why am I not rewatching this movie? For some reason, I thought this is like a 2.5 hour long movie. I'm like, I don't know if I have time to rewatch this, but 100 minutes, that's easy to do. I could do that in one night.
Absolutely.
Anyway, so this, I mentioned, this is Wes Anderson. This is the tale of this hotel called the Grand Budapest Hotel and sort of its place in history as Europe transforms in the first half of the 20th century. So there's all these world events happening, and a lot of it sort of revolves around how the hotel is affected, interacts with these world events. Ralph Fiennes is the head concierge, so he's kind of our connective character between all the stories and throughout history. And then, who's the kid? Who's his protege?
I don't remember.
It's the kid who's in Tony Revolori.
Mm-hmm.
He's playing kind of the protege to Ray Fiennes. He's learning, how he could someday become a concierge. And then within this movie, Saoirse Ronan, I believe she plays a pastry maker or some sort of patisserie or a chef or something like that. She kind of plays the love interest of Tony Revolori.
Mm-hmm.
She's definitely a side character, but even in this movie, she made a presence with the few scenes she has. And she's one of this movie has a huge cast, and you can read through it and see all these people. I don't remember most of these people being in this movie. I do remember Saoirse Ronan being in this movie.
Sure. It's a good one. My number 6 is from 2015, and it's Brooklyn, which, did you get to see Brooklyn?
Oh, I got to see Brooklyn, and I'm excited to talk about it.
It's on your list. I won't go into it much. I'll let you take the lead on it just because I've talked about Brooklyn a bunch. I'm curious to know what you thought about it. I'll just say that I like this movie, and I recommend it to people as like a good, I don't know what you'd call it, like a romance period drama. That stars Saoirse Ronan. She seems to excel in those, and this is a good one. My number 6.
All right, my number 5 is 2007's Atonement, directed by Joe Wright, and this movie for me puts Saoirse Ronan on the map as well as James McAvoy. They were new faces to be. Maybe Last King of Scotland first for James McAvoy. I'm not sure what year that came out. Around the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And then Keira Knightley, I knew as the woman from Pirates of the Caribbean. Then I got to see her in a serious movie. So, I think for me, this movie put a lot of people on the map, put Joe Wright on the map.
Mm-hmm.
This is a story about a teenage girl played by Saoirse Ronan who falsely accuses her older sister's lover of assaulting her, essentially. And that kind of sets into motion all these things. It changes everyone's lives. And this movie is about sort of what happens after the events of this accusation and how everyone's lives are changed. And also sort of the guilt and the grief that people feel about what happened. We were talking about epics. I would call this movie a bit of an epic, even though maybe the main character is only focused on 3 main characters. It sort of tells a large story over a span of time.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Saoirse Ronan is probably, she says she's plays a 13-year-old. She probably was around that age in this movie. And again, she, as a young actress, left an impression on me.
Nice. My number 5, maybe our first of many.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure this top 5 is going to be probably like the same 5. We're just going to shuffle them around.
All bingos for sure. The Grand Budapest Hotel, 2014. Don't really remember Saoirse Ronan in this movie. Like, even you described like what her role is in it. I don't really remember that.
Doesn't she have like a big birthmark on her or something? Nothing. Okay, not jogging your memory.
It's been a long time since I've seen the Grand Budapest Hotel, but I want to rewatch it, and I will soon, because I've wanted to rewatch it for quite a while. And one of my favorite Wes Anderson movies, certainly of his Dollhouse era, and just a great movie. The only reason it's not higher is because I don't remember Saoirse's part in it. Otherwise, it would be near the top. I should also say Brooklyn was like the first movie in my list that's a 4 or higher. So everything from 6 up are like bangers to me, for sure.
Yeah, I think my 4 started at Atonement, but I need to give Grand Budapest Hotel a second look. I have a 3.5. That seems underrating it. I remember liking more than that.
I have it at 4.5, and I can't wait. I've only seen it that once. I need to watch it again and make sure that's how I still feel about it, because I really liked it clearly when I first saw it. So,
all right, I'm gonna say like it was hard for me to rank 2, 3, and 4 because these are all movies I like. I really tried to focus on the Saoirse Ronan performance and how much I like the performance of her in each of those. And that's how I made my 2, 3, and 4. So my number 4 is Little Women. This is the 2019 version, directed by Greta Gerwig. This is about 4 sisters, the March family, who are living during the time of the Civil War, and kind of how their life revolves around what's happening in the greater country. Not so much that they're being directly affected by the war. It's not like the war is happening right outside their front door, but because of the Civil War, there are, men are leaving the town. There's some upheaval. There's a little, their life isn't as comfortable as they're maybe used to. And this is about how these 4 sisters deal with it. And then Saoirse Ronan is definitely the lead. She plays the main sister, who's Jo, who I think is the second oldest of the 4 sisters, if I remember correctly.
I don't remember.
But then you also have Emma Watson playing, I think, the oldest sister. Florence Pugh is playing maybe the youngest sister or the third youngest, and then there's a fourth one too. This movie also just has a super stacked cast. Like you got Laura Dern, Timothée Chalamet, Tracy Letts, Bob Odenkirk, Chris Cooper, Meryl Streep. Like everyone seemed to show up to be in this movie, and it's a really good adaptation. I've seen both Little Women's, the 90s version, and this more recent one. I like them both. I think they both tell the story well. They're obviously different movies, but I have no complaints with either of them.
Sure. I'm curious to know if our top 6 are the exact same movies in a different order. I think there's a good shot.
I think there's a good shot they are. Yeah.
We'll see. My number 4 is Atonement from 2007.
Yep. Okay.
You aptly described it. I mean, I don't remember the details of the story of Atonement. You reminded me of them, certainly, but like off the top of my brain when I made the list, I didn't remember that. But there are a couple like filmmaking specifically in the visuals, the long take on the beach, a couple of other things that happened throughout the movie that like just elevate Atonement beyond just the plot of the movie, I would say, that keep it in my brain, even though I came to it later. I probably watched this maybe, I don't know, 10 years ago.
Okay.
Which it was released in 2007. So it's a 15-plus-year-old movie at this point. So I didn't see it on initial release. It came highly recommended, probably from Zach. And then I watched it. And those specific filmmaking things have stuck in my brain, even if the plot of the movie has dwindled. Originally, when I watched it, I gave it 5 stars. I need to rewatch it at some point, see if I still feel that way. But it had to have done something to earn a 5. That's for sure. My number
can't get much better than a 5.
Right. My number 4.
Nice. All right. My number 3 is another Joe Wright movie. This is his follow to Atonement. This is 2011's Hannah. I don't want to talk too much about this because I think you're to have this one pretty high, and I don't want to take too much wind out of the sails on it. Okay. So I'll just kind of give a quick setup on it. In this movie, Saoirse Ronan plays the son of Eric Bana, who is a CIA agent who's kind of racing her in the wilderness. The daughter of.
Okay.
Just sorry. She plays the daughter of her father, who is a CIA agent who's raising her kind of like out in the middle of nowhere. So she has no interaction with the outside world. She is raised to have his skills, to be an assassin, to be a spy. And then Eric Bana sends her off on a mission, right? It has to do with the past. And she's being tracked by Cate Blanchett, who in this, I think I've never seen Cate Blanchett play evil before. And she plays evil so well in this movie and is having so much fun with it. And yeah, this is a cat and mouse game as Cate Blanchett is tracking Saoirse Ronan across Europe, trying to bring her in, or it's, because she knows things, and Saoirse Ronan's learning about kind of who her father was and what her past was, all throughout this action thriller. So I'm going to leave it there. There's a lot more to talk about, but I think you've got a lot to say about this movie too.
Nice.
It's a movie I wish I had time to rewatch for this list because I have it on Blu-ray. I haven't had a chance to actually catch it yet.
Okay. But you saw it once, like near release?
I saw it in theaters when it came out.
Nice.
Yeah,
Awesome.
and it was cool. It felt kind of small when I saw it.
It is.
Like this was, I saw Cate Blanchett. Like, oh, Cate Blanchett, like from Lord of the Rings, like she's doing a small movie here.
Yeah. When you rewatch it, you'll be surprised at how small it is, even though it lives big in your brain.
I'm sure it is like a small movie.
Yeah. My number 3 is from 2017. It's Lady Bird, which is Greta Gerwig's directorial debut. Saoirse Ronan's definitely the main star, but also in this movie you got Beanie Feldstein and Laurie Metcalf, and this is the first Timothy Chalamet, Saoirse Ronan, Greta Gerwig joint, I would say.
What's their other one besides Little Women?
Little Women.
Oh, okay, that's it.
Like 2 years later, they made Little Women together. Those 3.
Was Saoirse Ronan in Barbie at all?
I don't think so.
I don't think she was. Okay, not even as like a cameo.
Neither was Timothy Chalamet.
Well, that's fine. I can you imagine him as a Ken?
Yeah, I think they could have made anybody a Ken in that movie.
I don't think he has Kenergy.
I think he could have had it if they wanted him to have it, but
I don't know.
I don't think they needed him.
No, they didn't need him. No, I mean, right. The Kens they had were great.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Lady Bird, a movie set in the early 2000s. You got this young girl who wants to escape her California lifestyle. Her parents are not rich people, but they want the best for her. She constantly clashes, as teenagers do, with her mother, and but they also have like a decent relationship. One of my favorite moments in this movie is towards the beginning where they're just like sniping at each. They're at a thrift store, like looking at clothes.
Yes,
they're just sniping at each other, back and forth. Like you'd think these people hated each other, and then like at the drop of a hat, they pull a garment out that they both like, and they immediately are like, "Ooh, that's cute." You know what I mean? It like turns on a dime, and I was like, "That is 100% my sisters and my mom."
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like they can be, or like they were never brutal with each other, but they could like, when you're that close to somebody, you can fight, and then like it's serious to everybody watching it, but it's not that serious to you. You know what I mean? Like you can snap out of it in a second. And there's a bunch of other scenes in this movie. There's one where Saoirse Ronan's trying to flirt with Timothy Chalamet.
Okay.
And he says something. He's trying to flirt back a little bit. And he says, I forget what he says to her, but she laughs it off and goes, "Ha ha, I will murder you and your parents." And he goes, "Are you serious?" And she goes, "No." And he goes, "Because my dad has cancer." And she's like, "Oh my gosh." She's like mortified. And he's like too cool for school. So he like plays it off or whatever. Yeah. But the first time I saw that play out on the screen, I laughed so hard. Like it's really awkwardly funny. The whole movie is awkwardly funny, and really shows the range that Saoirse can pull off for sure. It's also fun to see Laurie Metcalf like in something that's not Roseanne related,
right?
And seeing her kind of kill it on screen. So, Lady Bird, one of my favorite A24 movies.
I should have spoke up because my number 2 is Lady Bird. We could just have a conversation together. Yeah,
sure.
Yeah. So you hit the nail on the head. That thrift store scene, that I think encompasses a family relationship so well. I remember watching this movie with my wife, who was a high school student in the early 2000s. So she's watching this movie and she's like completely relating to Saoirse Ronan's character. Being like a 17-year-old girl, she and her mom would like fight. They would just be at each other's throats and then totally get along. And the whole time Megan was watching this movie, she was like, "Oh my God, this movie like captured my high school experience almost to a T."
Sure.
So yeah, is this movie written by Greta Gerwig?
Probably, or co-written at minimum.
Yeah. Greta Gerwig. She wrote it.
Written by her. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think she just perfectly nailed the mother-daughter teenage relationship in this movie. And she has great actors doing it, including Laurie Metcalf and then Saoirse Ronan. then you also have Tracy Letts. He's the dad. He's sort of like, kind of chill. So he's kind of staying out of it. He's like, hey, whatever's going on between you and your mom, like, you figure it out. I still love you either way.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and Beanie Feldstein's good in it.
Oh yeah, the best friend, the kind of comic relief too.
I mean, between this and Greta's version of Little Women, and then Barbie, like, is there anybody who has the pulse on like women? Like, for some reason, Greta Gerwig not only can write quote unquote movies for women, quote unquote, but like, I like them too. You know what I mean? Like, clearly this is not trying to depict a relationship between a son and his father. You know what I mean? But yet I can love Lady Bird. Or like with Little Women, it's about like, I don't know if you describe it as colonial era, but it's about a
Civil War
bunch of sisters. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's not really what people would. I'm not the target audience for the Little Women story typically.
No, and like when Little Women came out in the 90s, did you watch it? Or you had sisters, so you probably didn't watch it.
I watched it tangentially.
Oh yeah, I realize as I say that but like, I never saw Little Women from the 90s.
Sure.
Because I was like a 10-year-old boy and I had a brother.
Why would you?
Yeah, my wife, all the women my age watched that 90s Little Women and loved it.
Mm-hmm. But then you get Barbie too. Like, that's a movie that I'm not the target audience, and yet she made a movie that like anybody can relate to.
I think because she can tell compelling stories, and like, she doesn't have to be like, okay, this is for dudes. She's like, hey, this is about women, but this is a compelling story that anyone should be able to enjoy it.
Sure. Or find she doesn't what's the word? Pander. She doesn't pander. There's a little bit of pandering in Barbie, but like, it's part of the comedy of it, I would say.
Yes. Yeah.
But like, specifically with Little Women and Lady Bird, the characters are so believable, so likable. The pace, the direction, the performances, it's so well done, even though one's a drama, one's a comedy. She's like one of the filmmakers I look forward to at this point.
Narnia is her next thing, right?
Yeah.
That should be interesting.
Honestly, I wish she wasn't doing Narnia, just because like, it's been done. It's like the third go around. But third or fourth go around if you include the animated stuff. And so I mean, Little Women was done to death too before she got her hands on it. So maybe she'll bring something to it. I am looking forward to maybe a good version of Narnia that like will actually tell the other books and not like die on the vine like the Disney one did. And but we'll see.
And you've seen the BBC one, right? From like the late 80s?
I think so.
They did 3 or 4. Like that's quote unquote my Narnia,
though, right?
It's a mini series, Right. But that's the Narnia I grew up on.
Yeah, I think that's the one I was forced to watch when I was a kid.
Okay.
Like,
right, you're right.
Because I went to like private schools.
Oh, okay.
So like, I grew up with Narnia surrounding me, basically. Yeah, it was like the only thing.
Right, C.S. Lewis and
right. It's the only thing they would show you in Christian schools is like C.S. Lewis adaptations and stuff like that.
Is the animated version rotoscoped? Is it like that 70s style?
I don't remember
it,
but it very likely. But I don't remember.
Okay. What's your number 2?
We're on my number 2.
Yeah.
I just talked a lot about your number 2. Is that why?
Yes. Because my number 2, your number 3 was Lady Bird.
Gotcha. My number 2 is Hannah.
Okay.
Which I rewatched yesterday.
Jealous.
According to Letterboxd, my 4th watch of Hannah since it came out. This is crazy. It came out in 2011. That's 13 years ago. I still love Hannah. It's great. Like, as like spy action movies go, she's not necessarily a spy, but she's trained as a spy, basically.
Exactly. Yeah. She's got the skills.
Right. It's great. Also, Saoirse Ronan's like practically unrecognizable in it. Like, they bleached her hair and her eyebrows and put zero makeup on her. And not only that, but she's way younger. And so she just does not look like the person in Blitz or Little Women, for sure. And so also the action has like a European like Run Lola Run feel to it.
Yes, it does. Yeah.
It doesn't help, or it does help, that the Chemical Brothers did the score for it. So
they did?
Yeah, there's a lot of
I gotta watch this again.
There's a lot of like driving beats and techno soundtrack to it. And there's like a pretty varied shooting style. It's another Joe Wright movie.
Yep.
And who made Atonement, but it's a very different movie than Atonement for sure. There's one long take action scene with Eric Banana when he's like leaving a bus stop and then goes down into the subway and fights a couple special agents. That's like technically impressive for sure. And then the escape scene from the underground bunker is pretty wild. Like every time I watch the movie, I'm surprised by it because it's kind of directed like a music video. There's like lots of like strobing lights and the fast cuts, and somebody will be running and it'll like cut to like them up close to the camera, and then it'll cut back to them far away from the camera and then up close to the camera. And it's like set to the beat of the strobing lights and the Chemical Brothers soundtrack. It's just like a little music video action scene at the beginning of the movie. I dug all of it. I still do to this day. Surprisingly small budget action movie that does a lot with the elements that it has. And I enjoy it. And I'm glad, like, I don't know if we'll ever see Saoirse Ronan in an action movie again, like doing action where she's the action heroine, but she got to do it real early in her career.
She got to, yeah.
And it was in a good one. So maybe she never needs to do it again. I don't know. We'll see. My number 2.
The only thing I want to add that you left out was I like the setting of the final battle of like the abandoned German theme park.
Yes, absolutely.
It's just
spoiler alert for people who have not seen it.
Sure.
Do you remember how the Tilda Swinton character dies?
Kate Blanchett, sorry. Does it have to do with like a wolf's mouth or something like that?
No, absolutely.
Okay, I don't remember. All right, so
it does, yes.
Okay.
So it's one of those log flume. Spoiler alert! It's one of those log flume rides, right? Where you would like be in like a little flume, and then it's the part where you go down the really big dip part, but it's an abandoned place, so there's no water in it, and there's a wolf's mouth setting where the log flume goes down. So that's probably what you're remembering.
Okay, yes.
But she hits her with an arrow. Hannah hits Kate Blanchett with an arrow, and Kate Blanchett goes rolling down this dry log flume ride.
Yes. Yep.
And those log flume rides have ribs in them to make the clanking sound as you go down the ramp. And so her head's bouncing against every step of the dry log flume ride as she falls down the log flume. It's brutal.
That's a pretty brutal death. Yeah.
It's pretty great. I enjoy it. My number 2.
Well, I will rewatch Hannah, not for this episode, just for the sheer joy of it.
Yeah.
But my number one is a movie that I watched this weekend. I'd never seen it before.
Oh, okay.
It was a movie that you sent me on Blu-ray because you're like, hey, I think you're going to like this. And you're right. It's Brooklyn.
I mean, I sent it to you because I thought maybe you'd like it. But I thought for sure Megan would get something out of it. You know what I mean?
So she and I watched Blitz together, and I wish she and I had watched this together instead.
Oh, she hasn't seen Brooklyn.
No, she still hasn't seen that. I had to watch it on my own, and now I don't know if she's going to see it because I watched it by myself.
Pretty much the only reason I sent it to you was because I was sending you a package of Blu-rays. That was one that I like found at a pawn shop for like $2 or $3, and I was like, I don't know who I'm giving this to, but for that price, I'm getting it. And then I was putting a package together, and I tried to include something that maybe you might want to watch with her. Yeah, and I was like, Brooklyn. All right, I'll send it.
Well, I wish I had watched this with her.
Sure,
because this movie is amazing. So in this is the story of an immigrant. Saoirse Ronan plays an Irish immigrant. I think this is like the 1930s or 40s. They don't quite give you, or no, 50s, sorry, 50s. So it's post World War II.
Mm-hmm.
And she immigrates to America just because there's nothing for her in Ireland, in her small town.
Mm-hmm.
And she ends up in Brooklyn in an Irish community and forms a new life here in America. It's kind of like your classic immigrant story. What I love about this movie, though, is it's such a small scale movie. Like, even though she's in New York City and like you think it'd be like, oh, she's in the big city, everything kind of takes place like in the neighborhood. I love the scenes in the boarding house she's staying in, like the dinner scenes. It's her and like the woman who owns the house, and like all the other single women who are living there, and just the conversations they have. I could have used like a whole movie of them just talking at dinner, and the five of them just going back and forth is great. I thought this movie was just a love story, and that's definitely a big part of it. Is Saoirse Ronan's character meeting this an Italian American and them forming a love story, but it's so much more about her just being there and excited to be somewhere new, but also missing home, and then eventually getting brought back to home, and then having to decide like, well, which life do I want? Like, do I want the life that I had, or the life that I want? And it's like, I didn't know how this movie was going to end. I was rooting for a certain ending the whole time. This movie is beautifully shot. Like, the cinematography is incredible. Every time you get Saoirse Ronan's face, like, she has incredible blue eyes, and they are beams of blue light. And I don't know how they did that, if they lit her a certain way, but like every time you see her face, it's like her eyes are just lit up. I was enjoying this movie. I had to watch over 2 nights. I got tired, but I could not wait to start it the next day because it was such a great movie. I'm sorry that I missed it 9 years ago.
Yeah, I kind of feel like this is her undiscovered gem. You know what I mean? Like, when people talk about Saoirse Ronan, Brooklyn doesn't come up because there's other like high profile awards movies, as well as like, a couple big budget movies, stuff like that. This is the one where like you found a Saoirse Ronan fan if they've seen Brooklyn and rank it high.
Oh yeah, she's great in it. Like, just,
and it's like her movie.
Impeccable.
It is her movie. There's almost nobody else. There's other people in the movie, but they don't matter. It's her story, and it's like her coming of age in a period piece. Her character's coming of age in a period piece with impossible choices to make.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, when you're a young person, like these types of choices, I couldn't even imagine having to choose between the things that this person has to choose between. Just because my life was a lot smaller at her age than what she's like. Literally, there's an ocean between her and her parents, essentially.
Right, and yeah, communication is a letter. Maybe you can make a long distance phone call if you got the money for it, but
right. And then the love story, which you didn't really touch on, we'll leave that for people to discover on their own. I thought was like another impossible decision.
Right. Yes. The choice. I'm not going to get into it, but I'm glad this movie wasn't just the love story. I really thought going into like, oh, this is a Irish American, Italian American love story. Like, not West Side Story per se, but like, we're going to kind of be getting that. And that's not this movie whatsoever. Like, it's part of it, but I think you hit it better. This is a coming of age story. And part of coming of age is love and that decision. But that's not the only part of the story.
Yeah, I think that's what separates it from like what I consider like cliched, romantic pap movies made for women. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, this has some of it shares elements with those movies, but it's not that movie. It's an immigrant story. It's a coming of age story. It's a well acted story, perfectly shot story that happens to have a little bit of romance in it.
Right. And it's not like the Italian parents hate her because she's Irish. There's no, like, they're like, oh, yep, you're Irish, I'm Italian, great, okay.
Yeah. Here's
how we eat our food. What's your food like? Like,
Yeah, for sure.
It's not a Romeo and Juliet whatsoever.
It's also got like Domhnall Gleeson in it, and what's his name? Jim Broadbent. There's a bunch of people you'll recognize in it.
Yes.
that they're just not the main characters. She's definitely the main character. Of this.
No, she is 100% the main character in this movie.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you for sending this to me. And Megan, I'm sorry I watched this without you. I wish we had watched this instead of the Blitz together. Blitz was good, but I think you'd have liked this one more.
Yeah. Oh, Brooklyn has a 97%. That's a good score for a live action movie.
I gave this a 4.5, and there is a possibility this could be a 5 on a rewatch.
Yeah.
I don't know if I have any complaints. I can't tell you anything that was wrong with this movie that I didn't like.
Right. I rewatched it. I'm just reading on Wikipedia. Somebody from the British Film Institute says that the reason why it stands out is because it's an immigrant story that's not male-led.
Oh, yeah.
Makes sense. I mean, I
point.
can't think of another one that's not male-led.
All right, you have us all on tenterhooks. What is your number one?
Oh, really? Little Women, of course.
Of course, yeah. Actually, I knew that. I wasn't that like.
We talked a bunch about it.
Yeah.
So I don't have to go into it too deep. But I mean, Little Women. This version, Greta Gerwig's Little Women with Saoirse Ronan at the lead. I've said it way too much in this episode, but not a movie that should be for me. Meanwhile, I've seen it like 4 times since 2019. It's like almost every year.
That's almost nice. Like annual viewing. Yeah.
I mean, I think I saw it 2 or 3 times within the first year.
Okay.
I love this movie. And maybe because when I grew up, my sisters liked Little Women. They read the book. They watched the miniseries, and they were all about it. And I was always like, that's just what my sisters do. And then I saw this version of it, and I was like, oh, I like this story, and everything that comes with it, even though it's it's another coming of age movie about girls. And yeah, I mean, I'm old enough now to realize that like I can watch stories that aren't necessarily quote unquote made for me, as long as they're telling a compelling story with good characters. Even if it's not something I directly relate to, I can directly relate to it, even if it's not in my perpetual teenage brain made for me. You know what I mean? So I read somewhere that like males at 16, I think, like they are set. There's like a percentage of your brain that's like in that mindset for life. I forget what it was.
What do you mean by that mindset?
I'm not saying it right, but there's like a measure here that I'm not getting right.
Are you saying like when men turn 16, there's part of their brain is just set for life? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, like your formative memories.
I see. Okay, like
define what you compare the rest of your life to.
I got you. Okay,
if that makes sense.
Okay. And are you saying because you grew up with sisters and watching movies that were also marketed towards them, is that affected you as a 16-year-old? I'm trying to figure out where
I don't know what I'm saying.
Where are you taking this?
I grew up with 3 sisters. I was the only boy. So like I had a Cabbage Patch doll when I was a kid.
Right.
Because my sisters had one and I wanted one because they had one. Mine was a boy and it had a Cubs hat on and was about as buoyed up as a Cabbage Patch doll could be. But none of my friends who were guys had Cabbage Patch dolls because what do they care about it? You know what I mean? So I think I don't necessarily have trauma from that kind of stuff, but like I could tell that because I had 3 sisters, sometimes I cared about some things that like my guy friends who were 8 didn't care about at all and probably thought was a girly thing to care about.
Well, especially like in the 80s, like there's very clearly boy things and girl things.
For sure. Yeah. So as I became a teenager, I defined things as girl things and boy things very clearly. And I'm sure other kids did that who didn't have 3 sisters. You know what I mean? But like, I know through my counseling and you know what I mean? And 25 plus years of perspective on it. I feel like I probably did that more than some people I was surrounded with did. And the more I watch of quote unquote girl movies, especially ones that are well made, I realize there's no reason to do that. There's no girl stories or boy stories. There's just good stories and bad stories.
There's good stories. And I think Greta Gerwig is a good storyteller.
So far. Yes.
So far. Yeah.
So far.
We'll see about Narnia. That's the jury's out on that one.
She's going to make a stinker eventually. They all do.
Yeah, eventually. Everyone does.
Right. I mean, Steven Spielberg made 1941 pretty early in his career. It's amazing it didn't sink it.
And then he made Ready Player One, which I never saw. But
Ready Player One is not that bad. It's just not. You're going to watch it and be like, really, Spielberg? You couldn't have done something better with your time?
Okay.
You know what I mean? It's one of those where you're just like, this is just like, what's the word? When you're like playing to the audience.
Oh, pedantic?
I thought pedantic is like stuck in the details.
Okay, you're right. It's
pandering.
Pandering, that's the word, right? Other P word.
Which we used earlier. Pandering.
Yep.
It felt pandering.
I couldn't finish that book. I read like a third of Ready Player One. And I was like, this is just a guy listing things from the 80s. Like, it really feels like a BuzzFeed listicle as a novel. And I was like, okay, there's no writing to this. It's not interesting. He's just, oh, look, I know all this stuff from the 80s. Like, well, good for you.
It's like
I was also alive then.
It's like nostalgia bait, right?
It's bad.
Zach loves that book too.
He read the book?
Yeah. He read the book before he saw the movie.
I thought he had better taste than that.
I don't think he likes the movie, but he likes the book a lot.
Oh, well, maybe I'll love the movie then if I didn't like the book.
I don't think you'll love the movie, but
I don't think I'll love the movie.
I think you should see it someday, just because you should see all the Spielberg movies. How far away from all the Spielberg movies are you?
I can. So I haven't seen BFG. I have not seen. I can't bring it up right now. I'm trying to think. BFG. I haven't seen The Post. I have not seen Ready Player One. And then what are those 80s ones like Wings or Always? What's the other one? Oh, Sugarland Express.
Sugarland Express. Okay.
Yeah. So off the top of my head, those are the 5 I can think of.
Okay.
Any other?
You've seen Color Purple?
I've seen Color Purple. Yeah.
Amistad.
Yep. Yeah. Any of those kind of like mid-tier ones I'm missing? Oh, 1941. I haven't seen 1941 either. I haven't seen Duel. So I'm probably 7 or 8 away from a completion on him.
Duel and Sugarland Express, super interesting movies just because, they're the first ones. And so you'll be like, oh, this makes sense, while you watch it. BFG, sad, unfortunately. It's just a sad movie. It's about like mourning and stuff like that. So I don't love BFG, but well made, and it's an adaptation. So the story is there, but it's kind of sad. Ready Player One is probably it feels like a cash movie where he just made it to make money. That's what it feels like.
Yeah.
1941 is him doing a straight comedy, which he never did again. And it's because it's not funny at all. Like, 1941 is the only Spielberg movie that I just was so bored by. I was just like, I don't understand. Like, Steven Spielberg doesn't have a good sense of humor. I don't think. He can inject small comedic moments in a movie.
Yes.
He just can't direct comedians in a comedy where the goal is to make jokes like constantly. That's what 1941 was. And it just did not work at all. Always is like an insignificant movie, but a decently made movie. And then I think you had one more that
The Post.
The Post you can definitely watch. It's just a straight adult drama about the media. In fact, this might be a good time to watch The Post.
Yeah, but it might be a good time to watch it too. Now that I think about it,
because it's all about like media, newspaper ethics, essentially.
Right.
So,
last quick Spielberg question: do you count Twilight Zone as a Spielberg movie?
I do count it because he directed a segment of it.
Yep. Okay.
But I mean, certainly not a movie where he directed the whole thing. but it is a feature film that he directed a segment of. So,
did you know that he directed a portion of the attack on the Tony Montana compound in Scarface?
No.
Yeah.
He's credited for it, or he like?
No.
Okay.
No, he's uncredited.
Sure.
But yeah, like a portion of that attack on the compound, he filmed.
Interesting.
Like, that's wild that Scarface has like Steven Spielberg touches on it.
Sure. I mean, people give him credit for Poltergeist as well, but I don't consider it his movie because I know the director is Tobe Hooper, right? Right.
Credited. Did Spielberg take over and actually direct it?
Supposedly he did, but
okay.
As far as like official credit, he has no official directing credit.
Officially, yeah. I mean, but it's same for like Dredd and Alex Garland. Like supposedly Alex Garland directed Dredd.
Really? Instead of
I think we talked about this on the Alex Garland episode. Yeah.
Okay. I don't remember, but
like he's the screenwriter for it, and he allegedly took over and finished the movie. But there's no clear like some of the actors are like, oh yeah, he was on set and blah blah blah, and other people are like, yeah, he finished the movie. Like we kicked the director out.
Pete Travis was the old director who made
of Dredd.
Yeah, of his other movies, the only one I like is Vantage Point, which is pretty good.
Okay,
but his other stuff I've never heard of.
We are stepping our way into Patreon territory right now, I think.
Definitely. All right. That was our top 10 films of Saoirse Ronan. Our top 6 was the same movies. Somehow we didn't have the same number on any movie. We never fully bingoed. But I think we both agreed that like the same 6 are her best 6. Yeah, for sure. Also, we talked about Blitz, which I didn't even consider putting in the list, but probably should be above Violet and Daisy at number 10, really.
Yeah, you seem like you didn't like that one.
If you're going by the numbers, it's probably better than that.
Okay.
Thank you for listening to this episode 658 of the Cinereelists. We appreciate your listenership. Don't forget, there's a video version on YouTube. Check it out there. Support us on Patreon. Leave us an Apple Podcast review or send us a listener email to heyguys@cinereelists.com. Instructions on how to do any of those things are in the description below or in your podcast app. You could also follow us on social media on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, or TikTok at Cinereelists, or follow me on my personal Twitter, Blue Sky, or Letterboxd account at EOJRB.
You can find me on Letterboxd at PeterSKB, and I may dabble into Blue Sky. Not there yet.
I would use Blue Sky so much more if you committed to posting to Blue Sky.
Well, I don't post anything.
Just post on Blue Sky.
Why post at all though?
Because I want to read your I forget what they call them on Blue Sky, but I want to read your posts.
I hope they're called Blue Peas or something like that.
I want you to like complain about your coworkers or whatever. There's nobody on Blue Sky. You can do whatever you want.
We'll see. We'll see. I'm considering it. I deleted Twitter a while ago, and I'm definitely happy about that now.
The other thing you can do on Blue Sky is you can create groups of people and just send posts to them. It's like Facebook, but like not annoying.
Well, maybe I'll get on Blue Sky.
Right.
Maybe it'll be my New Year's resolution in 2025.
Sure.
Post on Blue Sky.
If you make that your resolution, I'll make it my resolution because I don't post there enough.
Okay.
But I've completely stopped posting to Twitter. The only thing I use Twitter for is to complain to companies that like I can't get help any other way. So I complain there.
I didn't delete my username, but I deleted the app from my phone though. So
same here.
Yeah.
I don't have Reddit, Instagram, or Twitter on my phone anymore.
Oh, good for you.
I might put Instagram back, but the others can go. It's fine.
I like Instagram. I mostly use it to send reels to my wife. Like we use it as a way to communicate with each other. But yeah, a lot of Instagram I don't use the functions for.
I just, when I got my phone back, decided I'm going to hold out on putting anything back that like just is a big distraction. So
that's fair.
Yeah. All right. That's it. Next week we will be back with Gladiator 2, likely with Zach. We'll see. No guarantees, but there's a good chance he'll be back for that one. Until then, keep it cinereal.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.